Good evening, everybody. This is Dr. Mulder, and tonight I have back with me a great friend and a gentleman who I introduced to. Well, I didn't really introduce him to radionics. I gave him his very first radionics machine. I think, if memory serves, probably 2.5 months now. Anyway, this guy calls me up every single day and tells me the progress. Hey, Dr. Mulder, you're not going to believe what happened today. This, and this. And it's just been like, I've been a fan in the stands. I've been watching this gentleman's progress from the very first day he got a machine and to where he's at today. And like I said, Dr. John Stamey, welcome to the show. And it is a pleasure and honor to have you here. And like I said, uh, I'm glad to call you a fantastic friend, a brother, and just a very, very important part of my inner circle.
Well, thank you very much, Brad. You're just same thing to you. You're like one of the people, just so that everybody knows, you're one of the people I call every day. I have my sister, Robin McCrae. She's a psychic and a Bigfoot experiencer. I call her every day. I call you every day. I call my electronics buddy who is developing some stuff with me every day. I've got my group that I call every day because it kind of helps me stay grounded. I'm just lucky that I have such truly great friends and accomplished friends. It's taken me a long time to find all you folks, but you seem to have run in on me here at in 2023.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to say thank you. Yeah, Brad and I met at the Outback Steakhouse that I could not find. Now, Brad, I'm gonna tell you something. You can't find that restaurant. It's impossible, isn't it?
Yes, it is. I got lost the very first time I was going there too. You know,
Yeah.
consider yourself part of the club.
Right. And I had lunch with you and Christian McLeod, who has truly been a great friend. He's a friend because he came from my friend Elijah Henderson, who is like the prince of cryptids. Um,
Hmm.
I just always like to give Elijah a plug. His dad was the greatest explorer of land between the lakes. Both his mother and his father died, and he is carrying on the legacy. And I am thrilled to be his friend. And we talk almost every day about his cryptid experiences, the Vampire Hotel, Dogman, and I was ill and was not able to go up this July the 4th, but I'm going to be going up. What you call it, over Labor Day to
Hmm.
experience Vampire Hotel. It's a unbelievable place. And when I come back, Brad, can I come on your show? Because you see, now I have my own podcast, but I kind of don't like to be the guest and the speaker there. But when I come back from Land Between the Lakes, can I come on here and tell everybody about Vampire Hotel?
Well, since it's you, okay, sure, why not?
Thank you very much. It's an incredible place, and I've got a lot of work to do there. I got to get a guy out of jail. Um,
Mm.
I do, and I'm going to. He might have an idea that somebody's going to start working on him, but and I've got the right attorney, and we're going to get him out of jail. He did something bad when he was 15 years old, but I think after 31 years, I think you can forgive. At least that's what I think. So
Yes,
anyway, but back to what we're talking about tonight. I appreciate you having me on the show, and you told me let's talk about radionics.
of course.
So I
But
am going to.
sorry.
Yes, sir.
Okay, I was going to say, yeah, before we get started, all that stuff, I'd like for everybody to know the background of this gentleman and let them know that, okay, we're not dealing with some Yahoo or some Yahoo up the street here. We're dealing with a highly educated, a highly intelligent individual here. And this man is an actual scientist. And his and the one of the beauties of science is the power of observation to observe things as they occur. Now, with that said, sir, could you please give them your background and then we'll go on. I'm gonna let you take the floor for the rest of the show.
Yeah, I have a master's in mathematics from Wake Forest. I have a master's in computer science from Clemson University, which about killed me. Every one of them have been hard. I have a doctorate in technology education and computer science from North Carolina State. And then I went and got my business degree from the University of Tennessee the agriculture school. It's called a Master of Science in Agriculture and Natural Resources Systems Management. And I think that one about killed me. I mean, I think that taught me I was done with that stuff. But it was great. I cherish my education. I cherish all the professors that put up with me. I gave them 100%. I really did, because I really respected all of them. And now, so that everybody knows, I work for Transamerica, the great life insurance Fortune 50 corporation, Aegon. And I work for the most wonderful lady that I truly, truly respect. Her name's Tammy McClellan. She's one of the smartest people I have ever met. And every day I remind her that I am so impressed with her. And she's just so matter of fact. And the other day she told me to just shut up. I said, okay, I'm done for today. And she laughed. And you know, I'm lucky that I am surrounded by, and my attorney and my surgeon, you know, the Attorney General of Scarycast.
Oh yes.
Marshall Biddle, the Surgeon General of Scarycast, Dr. Trey Dunaway. These
One
guys,
hell of a guy. One hell of a guy.
God. Oh, they are the best in the world. And I mean, I'm just so lucky that I've got great friends, smart friends like you, Dr. Brad Mulder.
Yeah.
And you and your doctorate. And I mean, you know, so anyway, I got a lot of great friends.
Yeah, you promoted me to professor, didn't you?
Well, I actually did, because in the old European system, if you have a doctorate, you can actually do two things. You can promote someone to professor, and you can also grant a doctorate if you have a doctorate. Now, that's the old European school. It doesn't come from a school. It would come from Dr. John Stamey as your doctoral advisor. But in the old way of thinking, and I like that. I got one boy that I'm trying to convince. I would love for him to get a doctorate. He's a genius, and he really is a genius. It's not my son's a genius. He can do a website. It's not that kind of junk. This boy's a genius. So you know, you pick the good ones and you try to help them. And the more you try to help people, I'm going to tell you something, the more rewards come your way. And I'm going to tell you that's the truth.
Yeah.
So anyway, all right. May I start with tonight's lecture?
Please, sir, have the floor.
Okay. Harvey, I can't remember Harvey's last name. Harvey is an insurance agent in Charleston, South Carolina. He and I were talking one day. He and I are partners at Transamerica in the group division. We're both in the individual division, but in the group division, you have a partner. So Harvey is my partner, and I couldn't have a better partner. He's been doing this for 30 years, and he's I mean, God, he's smart. And he told me, we were sitting there. It was raining as hard as it could be. I was sitting there in his SUV. We were waiting on a lady at the Chamber of Commerce to talk to her about some insurance. And he started telling me about the reticular activating system. I said, what's that? Sounds interesting. So he told me what that is that's part of your brain stem, and it acts as a filter. Because here's an example. Every second of your life, you get about 2 million bits of information thrown at you. Did you know that, Brad?
Sorry about that. I was on mute. Yes, I do know about that. You know how I know about that? Because you told me this before.
Okay, but the point is, you have all this information coming at you.
Yes.
And here's the big question. With all this information coming at you, why don't you go crazy? Why is it if I'm driving from Myrtle Beach to Nashville, or to Knoxville especially, is a trip that I do about 3 or 4 times a year. And I never seem to look at the road signs on the interstate until I get near Knoxville. Right. Then I'm very interested in them to find my exit to either go to the venue that we're going to be at or to go to my hotel.
Mm-hmm.
Why is that? I've always wondered about that. And it's explained by the reticular activating system. What this thing is, it's about the size of a number 2 pencil. and it's in your brain stem, and it goes up to the top of your skull. And what it does is it selectively filters information. It makes sure that you don't get bombarded with too much information until you really need it. And I think that's very cool. Now, Dr. Trey Dunaway and I, we did an entire scary cast on the reticular activating system. And that was one of the most fun things I've ever done. And he said, well, John, when I was at the University of Pennsylvania, Ivy League, University of Pennsylvania Medical School, he said, well, we talked about the reticular activating system. One morning, some doctor came in and talked about it from 9 to 12, asked if there were any questions. He left, and that was it. That's all we heard. But he said, I never knew that salespeople really tend to use it, because here's an example of what happened to me. And this is why Harvey and I were talking about this. I was starting out in the group division. I was already in the individual insurance division. So I was going into the group division. And so what I did was I took Highway 9 from Loris, South Carolina to North Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. And I was looking very hard for businesses that looked like they had between 5 and 50 employees, no more and no less, because those were the businesses that we needed to talk to. And on that 20-mile stretch of road filled with businesses, I found 3. And I knew something had to be wrong with me. So what I did is I went home, laid down on my couch. And this is what I do when I really need to figure out what's going on. So I laid down on my couch and I tried to start meditating. And I started saying, I need to train myself to find those businesses that we need to sell to. So I did. And I dozed off and I went to sleep, and I ended up going to the bedroom, went to sleep. The next morning, well, I went out and sold insurance in Loris. And so then I did the same drive. Well, guess what happened, Brad? I identified 43 such businesses on that drive. I had identified 3 the day before. I had done something. I had meditated and done something in my brain, and I didn't know what it was. And I told Harvey this. He said, "Oh, I was in a seminar about 30 years ago, and this old dude talked about the reticular activating system. So somehow you managed to train it to filter out things that you didn't want and let you perceive things that you wanted." I said, okay, that's really cool. And I started doing some research on the reticular activating system. So now that brought me to something interesting. It brought me to the fact that I used something called intent. I decided I intend to find these businesses, these smaller to smaller, medium-sized businesses. I intend to do it, and it worked. Now, intention, Dr. Wayne Dyer, a very famous motivational speaker, has written a book called Intention. But I realized there was a book about intention that was much older, much more important, better known. And I went back to page 13 of Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. Truly one of the greatest business books and personal development books ever. Brad, have you ever read Think and Grow Rich?
Between 15 and 20 times. And I tell you, one of my favorite chapters was the mastermind group. I am a firm believer in the mastermind group. And what that means is you find a like-minded, talented group of people, you surround yourself with them, and you all basically have a common focus, a common goal. And you would be surprised. And I always make a little joke, and I sincerely mean this. If I walk into a room and I'm the smartest man in the room, it's time for me to find another room.
You're right. I know exactly what you mean. You're right. So anyway, I was very impressed because the word I intend said forcefully, like you really mean it. I intend to do this has a much different effect on your brain than I want to do this. I'm going to do this. My mother said, I'm going to kill a bear. You're never going to kill a bear, not unless you intend to. And she was, and I realized it now, she was one of the people that taught me about intent. And, but I didn't realize I'm going to kill a bear. Right. So, anyway, intent, saying the word I intend to, dot, dot, dot. Now, the reason that phrase is important to me is because I'm a computer scientist and I believe in computing systems, and I believe in there must be a programming language to program a computing system. Now, I believe the brain is the greatest supercomputer on earth. Don't know if you do. Maybe you do. What do you think, Brad?
Yes, either that or it's one heck of a transmitter and receiver because you and I had this question before. Yeah, we have people who have IQs of 130, 140, hell, as high as 170, 180. But what makes them a genius? Where does that spark of creativity comes from? Where you're able to visualize something that never existed before, and you're able to basically, a little bit of elbow grease and a little bit of time and a little bit of effort and motivation, it turns something into reality. Where does that come from? And that's always been my question. Where does genius come from? And that's really my quandary on this entire
I'm going to
situation.
stop you and I'm going to say genius is not a score on an IQ test.
Hmm.
It's not. It's not a score on the Miller Analogies test. It's not. Genius is, as you said, it is a spark that creates. I believe that genius must create, whether it's a book, fiction, whether it's poetry, whether it's an electronic device. I believe genius must create something. Do you agree with me?
Yes, I do.
I really do. And just something, just, oh, my grandson's a genius. I don't want to hear that.
Yeah.
God told me that a long time ago, and I've never forgotten it since. So anyway, the word I intend to, dot, 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 has a different effect on your brain than I want to, or I'm gonna, or whatever. It puts your brain in a little bit of a different mode. That is like a programming language statement. There are other programming language statements. I want to try to figure out what they are. But the idea of I intend, because if you intend, for some reason that bristles your back and it gets you going. It does something to you that I'm gonna or I wanna doesn't do. So that's the first thing that I want to say. That is one of the key words or key programming language phrases for your greatest supercomputer in the world, which is your brain. Number one. Number two, if you use that to your advantage and continually say that phrase, I intend to do this every day, then just go read Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich, because that's all over it. It's all over it. That's the book that has created more millionaires than anything else in the world. That is the genius book of all time. And I guess the second and third genius books of all time are Success with a Positive Mental Attitude by Napoleon Hill and Clement Stone, who, thank God, I got to take him around in his later days at the Napoleon Hill conference, and I got to shadow that man for 3 days. That was one of the greatest experiences of my life,
Mm.
to shadow W. Clement Stone. Then I found out the truth about W. Clement Stone, and it was amazing. And I am under lock and key seal with a previous attorney, Norman Sloan. He told me something that I cannot tell, but
Mm.
it's not bad, but it's very interesting and unusual about Mr. Stone. But he was the founder, well, not founder, he's the guy that took combined insurance to the stratosphere. The legend is he went around the block in Chicago and he didn't sell anything. And what he did was he went up there and he realized his wife and his kid weren't going to be able to eat if he, as an insurance salesman, couldn't sell. So he decided he was going to sell. He went back around the first floor of that office building and he sold almost everyone a policy because
Wow.
he intended to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Because he said, I'm not going to fail my lovely wife and my son. William Clement Stone decided he was not going to fail because he intended to sell these policies. These were the little policies, you get $1,000 if you lose an arm, you get $500 if you lose an eye. They're these policies that we don't sell much anymore. But the fact is, it was great what he did, and he built an empire, Combined Insurance. And he was a genius. He was truly, now that man was truly a genius in sales.
Mm-hmm.
And he had a great, great team. He built the concept of string. It's like every week you have to sell $2,000 because and you keep your string going. And I like that. That says every week you purposely, competitively say that I'm going to do this every week. And one of his boys, Paul, I can't remember Paul's name. He used to be my boss at Senior Life Services. But he built in the concept of string, and I hit string 130. And I couldn't believe that for 130 weeks, I had sold $2,000, like the old boys did at Combined Insurance,
Mm-hmm.
because I intended. It started out Monday morning with your intent, and I intended to do it, and damn if I didn't do it. And then I had a mess up. I sold a lady a universal life policy. I killed it. It was like, like it was huge. It was like $5,000. And she called up on Friday morning to the company and canceled. And there went my string. But that's okay. I learned what string was. I learned it from Mr. Stone and Paul, who had worked for him for years and was very successful at Combined Insurance. So intent is the basic thing I believe that creates success, that creates genius. Now I'm going to tell you about Kobe. I love my boy Kobe. He's working with me on some electronics. He's a great guy. He called me this morning. He said, John, I didn't get those links to those to those files that you wanted me to transcribe into text. And I just wanted to make sure that you knew that I had intended to do it, but I didn't get them. And so I just wanted to make sure that you didn't send them to me, and I missed them. And I heard that magic word intent, and I thought to myself, this boy gets it. This boy understands it, because he understands that to work with me, you better intend to be successful. Because if you're not, I'll get rid of you and I'll find somebody that will. There are people out there that intend. I've got a boy down in Northeast Georgia. He's been in and out of jail. And you know what he told me, Brad?
I have no idea.
He said, I intend to be successful.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, dear God, thank you for being my friend to help me, because I intend to be successful. I'm not going to do drugs. I'm not going to drink anymore. And you know what I did? I said, I'm going to come down there. Let's go out and have a few beers and lunch. He said, absolutely not. I intend to be successful, and I am not going to do that.
Mm-hmm.
I was testing him. I was
Mm-hmm.
proud of him, because you know what? He acted like a real man. He acted like a man that wanted to be successful. And I all of a sudden stepped up my game with him, and looking forward to having lunch with him next week and giving him some posters to give around and everything, because he intends to be successful. He intends to get away from drugs. He intends to be a good son. He's like 25 years old. He lives with his mother now, and he intends to make her life good. He really intends to do it. That word, I'm sorry, I hope you don't mind, but I'm going to be saying it a lot.
Go ahead.
Okay? So now, first of all, I've got to say thank you to Transamerica, the great life insurance company. Without Transamerica, I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't have one of the greatest supervisors that I've ever had. I wouldn't have the great friends that I have, the great clients that I have, and I wouldn't be able to serve them without Transamerica, the insurance giant since 1890. And I'm just so lucky that I'm part of the company. So now there was my there was my program break. I'm sorry I had to sneak that in. Were you
Oh,
okay
that's
with
okay.
that?
Yeah, it's commercial break. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's a little commercial break. All right, now I want to talk about intent. I intend to do something, but I am just some dude with a head and a body, and that's all I've got. Now I can say I intend all I want, but don't you think I would be better off if I had a loudspeaker? Brad,
And,
wouldn't I be better if I had a loudspeaker?
I don't know. I kind of doubt it. I think it's with it. I guess it depends on the situation.
Well,
I,
I think I would be better with a loudspeaker. Now, you know exactly where this train of thought is going, right?
I think I am. Please continue.
That's right. I certainly will. Okay, when I was 16 years old, I found a book called Magic Science of the Future. And I read it, and I must have read it 15 times. And it talked about this thing called the Hieronymus machine. And what happened is the United States Department of Agriculture in the 40s used this machine. They would put a certain bug, it was a corn borer. They would put it on there and they would use it to kill corn borers in a certain radius in a field that helped, of course, corn grow. Well, it was kind of interesting. And I read it and read it and read it. And I said, God, I want one of these machines. And when I was 16 years old, we didn't have any notion of the internet. And I wanted one so badly. And I just gave up. It was a machine called a radionics machine. And I couldn't find one. You ever heard of those, Brad?
Yeah. I've probably seen a few of them in my day.
Okay, well, I really wanted one. And I was talking with my buddy Christian McLeod, who is one of the nicest people I've ever met. He is truly a good friend. And he told me, he said, I've got a guy that you need to meet. He builds radionics machines. And it's the first time in my life I've ever said this to a friend. I said, stop. I want his number right now and hang up. I did. And you know what he said? Okay. He just said, sure. Okay. So he did. He gave me a number to a guy named Dr. Brad Mulder. And I think we talked about 3 hours.
It was pretty long. Yes.
It was, and it was the most enjoyable conversation because I wanted a Hieronymus machine. And let me tell everybody what a Hieronymus machine does. It's like a loudspeaker for your intent. Now, you can sit there and say, oh no, that just sounds like garbage. Well, it's not. I've proved it to myself and to a number of people around me that it does work. What it does is it takes your intent, and once you program it, it has a very special programming language. And the programming language has to do with this thing called stick. Now, stick means when you find a synchronization with something, you stop and you keep your dial at that spot. You stick it there. That's kind of what stick means to me. And so I got one of these radionics machines, and it was programmed in front of me by Dr. Brad Mulder. And so what happened was, and so Brad, you got me on here, and you're going to hear the whole story. Are you ready?
Let's do it, man.
Okay, I'm standing there in front of Outback Steakhouse in Hendersonville, North Carolina. Not exactly where you would expect a miracle to occur. So I said, Brad, I'm in trouble. I've got the North Carolina Bigfoot Conference coming up, and I am dead in the water. I don't know anybody to contact. I don't know anything going on. Please help me. So you programmed it. I said, thank you. And I took it and put it in the car. 3.5 hours later, I had gone up to Burnsville and come back. My phone rang, and it was somebody calling about the North Carolina Bigfoot Conference. They shouldn't have been calling about that. I had just barely put the website up. And then I got another call. Started 3.5 hours later. Then I got another phone call and another and another. And I said, something's going on here. And so it just kept happening. It was a good conference. It served its purpose and it was successful. And I met a lot of people. I met a lot of great people. And they're all coming back to the Flying Saucer Comic Con, which is going to be kind of fun. But it's going to be a paranormal Comic Con, and it's going to be great. So I just, it was wonderful. I met a lot of people, and I've got a lot of contacts because this little 8-inch by 8-inch by 2-inch tall box. It's just kind of sitting there. And then the power supply went out
Yep.
3 weeks before. And I knew it was still working. And it continued to work. So I had an experience. It's like my mind was filtering out everything that it needed to until I got to my intent. And then my intent helped program this device. And this device acted like a loudspeaker for my intention. And it kind of like went out into the ether. In fact, I've got somebody I got to call tonight. I realized I got to call him because he needs some help that radionics devices can give him. So anyway, in fact, I'm gonna write his name down so that I don't forget. And then we're gonna go on. But all I'm saying is this thing has helped me. Then I had Dr. Brad Mulder. I said, you know what, my insurance business. Oh, here it is. Call Alex. I'm gonna give him a call. He just got married, and I need to tell him congratulations. That'll be how I get back with him and become his friend because he needs a friend. So anyway, I asked Brad. I said, Brad, I need something to help me sell more life insurance. Is that what I asked you?
Yes.
Exactly. And I said, and I'm going to put it in my attorney's office because he's a good buddy of mine. And any residual efforts that you can add, please do so because I really like my attorney. He's been a good guy. He has helped me. He's done everything. So I said, make it helpful, but make it help me make money. And what you did, you told me in retrospect that at 12 o'clock you finished the machine and you programmed it. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
And then what happened? At 3:30 that afternoon, I went to see a client and I sold 6 insurance policies. Now it took me a while to do them, to find the people and get it all done, but he was going to pay for it.
Mm-hmm.
So not only did I find those people, I've had a cavalcade of insurance policies. This weekend I was going to sell 2. Then I was going to sell 3. Now I'm going to sell 5 and maybe 6. I'm going to sell one in another state, and the person has offered to pay for my license in that state. That's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
This is past good luck. Good luck is one thing, but the effects of a radionics machine, I'm feeling them, and they're working. And this stuff, it really works. And that's my story. I'm going to take this MP3 and I am going to transcribe it. And I want to make sure that everybody knows my story. Because my story would not have happened had I not met Dr. Brad Mulder, who built me my first radionics machine. And I wanted to say thank you so much for
Oh, it's
doing
my
this.
pleasure.
Because, and I guess what happened, an unexpected derivative of this is I've been so excited. I call you every day and tell you the good things that happen that never happened before.
Mm-hmm.
And we kind of accidentally became friends. Maybe not by accident, but I kind of like to think
Whatever.
the thanks to radionics, I got a good friend. So that is my story. I'm sticking to it, and nobody can change my story.
Mm-hmm.
Dr. Brad Mulder, I am returning control of your television set back to you. Do you
Okay,
remember where
well,
that? Do you remember where that comes from?
outer limits.
Thank you. You're so, gosh, you're so smart. You're a smart guy, Dr. Boulder. Yes, it comes from the outer limits. And I return control of your television set back to you. And so, what do you think? You got any questions, comments, or whatever?
Yeah, well, I think what you've done there in the beginning of the show, you kind of gave people the mindset how to accomplish something with these machines. In other words, you know, you have to stay focused. What is it I intend to do? I intend to do X, Y, and Z. And that's exactly right. I think I've told you many times before, like when I've been on your show on Scarycast, and the co-host would ask me this question, or whatever, and I always tell them that the most important part of that machine is the operator. The machine, it's just an object. It has knobs on it. It has circuitry. It has components inside of it. But in order for that machine to work properly, it has to be programmed by the operator. In order for that operator to use that machine efficiently, their mind has to be focused on what the objective is, and that's
What the intent is.
yeah. Well, yeah. I'm trying to
I
be
know,
clinical
and I
here.
think the word intent is very important because this thing amplifies your intent. What I think it is, I think it's just a radio transmitter. That's what
Mhm.
I think. I may be
Mhm.
wrong, but I think it transmits your stuff out to the ether.
Yeah, yes, I tend to agree with you. Yes, they're doing something. You and I, we've even done shows about this. The Mandela Effect. I mean, I've talked about this thing off and on for years. I'm fascinated by it. I mean, you and I, we've even talked about how things in this reality are not the way we remember, and we know damn sure, we know for a fact things were different at a previous time. Whether it's the lyrics to a song, whether it's the position of a
Oh my God,
Congress.
sir, may I please stop you
Yeah, okay, go
and
ahead.
say, I mean, when you're talking about lyrics to a song, one of my favorite songs of all time is Lola by the Kinks, because that great guitar riff, dum dum da 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 ba da da da, that is one of the greatest guitar licks in history. I'm a musician. I'm a professional musician. I was a concert pianist, so I love music, and I remember music correctly. I've got a little bit of Mozart in me that I can remember music. And it was like, I don't know, it was like 3 weeks ago. I decided to listen to Lola by the Kinks because I love it. And I don't care what anybody says. I don't care if it's about a transsexual. It's one of the greatest guitar riffs in history. And it has got one of the greatest pictures of a weird old nightclub in London that I've been to. And it is incredible. Okay?
Hmm.
It's incredible. It's got more memories for me than any other song. Tastes just like Coca-Cola. And I stopped it. That's not right. That's not the words. Tastes just like cherry cola, Cola cola. And the deal about it is that back in those days in the 60s, they did not use brand names in songs. No one had done that till like the mid 70s. I know that because I'm a producer. I'm a producer of one of the greatest rock bands in history, the Bill Haley's Original Comets. I produced their last album, Rock Around the Clock Live. I mean, I'm a producer. I know music, and I know for a fact it was Cherry Cola. But
Hmm.
now everywhere you go, it is Coca Cola. It's not. Now, there are even stories about why Ray Davies used the words Coca Cola. Now, that is not right. I don't know what you remember, but I know for a fact what I remember. Cola Cola tastes just like cherry cola.
Yeah.
And the fact that the Kinks song Lola has been maligned and changed, I called my buddy Kobe, the electronics boy, genius, and I asked him to sing it because he's a big classic rock fan, and he sang Cherry Cola. I said, "Do me a favor, stop, go to your computer, keep your phone on, and play the top link on YouTube for Lola." He said, Oh my God, it's changed. He
Mhm.
noticed that it had just, I think it had just changed within the last couple of days. So, I mean, if you want to talk about the Mandela effect, that's a very personal thing with me. My music,
Mhm.
Brad, is very personal to me. If a Freddie Mercury and Queen song ever changes, I am gonna just get so mad.
Oh, well, here's the for your pocket tonight. Anyway, no. Uh, for example, we are the champions. The very last line is, "We are
Oh,
the
that mess. Yeah.
yeah."
Oh, that is a I'm sorry, that is Queen. But you know what? I don't find it as egregious as Lola. It's just not.
Well, and another thing too, it's going back and forth here. Sometimes it will say of the world, and sometimes it won't. It'll cut off right at "We are the champions," and that's the last line. It just depends. It's a very strange thing. I mean, this entire reality is fluid, and and that was, and my premise was, since as far as I'm concerned, the Mandela effect is proof of a fluid reality. Okay, in other words, things are constantly, changing back and forth, moving back and forth. Nothing's solid. Nothing is for real. I mean, yeah, there are certain things that will there are constants. If I hold up a pen in the air and I let go of it, yes, that pen will hit the floor. I know these things for a fact. If I turn the keys of my car, uh, you know, I would say 99.9% of the time it will crank and I will head down to the store or on a nice trip or whatever. Okay, I know these are constants. I get it. I get it. But there are things that are actually changing. Physical things are changing, and I don't care. There's deniers out there for this and many other subjects. And my brother, who's also a professor at one of the fine colleges that you teach at or used to teach at, yes, he thinks I'm full of it. He thinks I am delusional. And so, but he comes from a reality where the way things are now are the way they have always been, and where I know for a fact that is not the case. And so that made me wonder, okay, how come is it that some people remember it the way you and I do, and other people remember it the way it is now? I mean, for example, you and I were talking about the largest man-made explosion in the history of man. I don't even think it's been replicated, even modern technology with the military. A man-made explosion. Okay, the largest one in history is Black Tom Island. I think it's around 1912, 1913, where we had a giant munitions dump there, and we were supplying munitions for the British and for the French to fight the Germans during World War I. The Germans come over in a U-boat. They have saboteurs get on the island. They set fires or whatever on the around the munitions. They leave to get the hell out of Dodge. The thing explodes. It was such a violent explosion that people down in Maryland could feel it. Okay, it would, I think killed like, thank God it only killed 5 people, but I think 5 people perished in New York City. A piece of shrapnel goes across the harbor, hits the torch of the Statue of Liberty, and that is the reason why to this day you are not allowed to go to the torch, which is another story there where I know people have been to the torch, but in this reality that was impossible. But that is where that happened. This is the first terrorist attack, or one of the this is the actual start of World War I, and but we're taught, or we're always remember, as the Lusitania, the sinking of the Lusitania. No, it was Black Tom Island, and people do not believe this. Look it up. It's in the government. It's on the government website for national parks. You'll find out about it. It's right there. That never existed. I never heard of this before. Have you ever heard of that before?
No, because I thought the largest explosion was Hiroshima.
No, man-made. They're talking about like explosives, not just
Oh,
non just using chemical explosives. I should have.
okay. All right. Well,
Okay.
that's interesting, and I'd like to look it up. And you know what, Dr. Mulder, I would like for us to do a show on the Statue of Liberty because my mother told me, oh my goodness, Oh my goodness, my fan club is calling. But I would like for us to do a show on the Statue of Liberty. And I would like to tell the story that my mother told because she and my father went up into the torch.
Oh, that's impossible.
Sorry, they did, and she told me the story, and she told me it was a little shabby, and it needed to be cleaned, and you know what I mean.
Yeah, yeah,
Oh
it's a
no,
little.
oh no, I got news for you. They did, and so they in their reality, and I'm no longer part of that reality stream, I don't think. But anyway, no, it's great stuff, and we don't you agree? It might be fun to do a show on just the Statue of Liberty and the stuff and the stories about it and the
Oh yeah.
history, the various histories of it.
Yes, I mean, for example, when I was a little boy, the foundation for the Statue of Liberty, where they actually stood on, okay, they they had everything graded and all that good stuff, and for create a platform to build a statue on top of it, right? Well, I remember it being square, okay. Now it's star shaped. It's
Oh, okay,
multi-pointed. Oh yeah, and
okay.
okay, what's the name of the island that the Statue of Liberty was on?
I don't know. I don't remember.
Most people say Ellis Island, which is not true. That was the, I think that, and this
No,
is reality.
it's not. Ellis Island is where immigrants came.
Exactly, but most people tell you Ellis Island. It was, they call it Liberty Islands, where they built the Statue of Liberty. But here's one thing: since you're a man of science, and the Smithsonian blank, that museum in Washington D.C. What do you remember?
It's called the Smithsonian Institute.
Are you sure?
Well, I've been there several times.
Now it's the Smithsonian Institution. I remember this institute also.
No, it can't be. It
Look
can't
it
be the
up.
Smithsonian. Well, I don't.
Institution.
And I just know what it was, and I mean,
Eh. Hey, it may have changed
I
back.
have my memory, Brad. I have my memories, and that's the way it was. The Smithsonian Institute.
Yeah.
Did,
Well,
did you know what I was going to say?
no. Go ahead.
No, no. Just did you know I was
Yeah,
going to say
I
this?
figured. Well, since you and I have seen things the same way, I thought you were going to say institute
Mm-hmm.
because you and I are from the same reality. We're from the same time, and
Okay. Let's say I don't know that we're from the same reality stream, but I think we have a lot of commonalities. I
hmm
think we have a lot of differences.
right.
I was at a client's house back when I worked for Senior Life Services,
Okay.
and I heard about the death of Billy Graham.
Right.
And I went home, looked it up on the internet. He wasn't dead. Channel 3 in Charlotte had a story about Dr. Billy Graham dying.
hmm
It was the damnedest thing I ever saw, and I didn't even know what to say. And I called the lady up. I said, "Didn't you hear that?" She said, I thought I did. I thought I heard that Billy Graham died when you were there."
hmm
Well, okay. And that's when I finally realized that's about all you can say is, well, okay.
Yeah.
I mean,
Uh,
no point in getting upset about it. It just, crap happens and you go on. But
yeah. Well, I think that was the American version of the Mandela Effect, probably, and but yeah, it's a lot of famous people. Everybody thinks, they passed away. They're still alive, and that kind of a thing. But it really reason why I hark on this. I just want to make sure my point's clear on it. Not only is reality fluid, but we are able to use a device to hack into that reality. Now that we know that things are fluid, that things can be changed, they can go one way or another. Physical reality can change one way or the other, that kind of thing. Now that we know that's the case, we're able to incorporate the double slit experiment into the scenario. And by bringing in the conscious observation of a reality or an intent, we'll say not objective, but an intent. Okay,
okay.
by bringing that into it, by incorporating that into this, we have human consciousness, we have the hardware, we tune the machine to project that intent into the fabric of reality the reality is fluid. It's able to mobilize. It's able to shift, and it's moldable. You're able to move it around and do things with it. All right, so we're able to do all that. Next thing you know, we're able to hack into it, and that, in my mind, is why radionics works.
Okay.
Now you have a theory on this. I may be different than mine. What do you think so far, as a scientist, as a observer of cause and effect and the equipment that you're dealing with? In your mind, why do you think radionics works?
All right. May I be very honest?
Please.
I don't know. And I don't have an opinion because I haven't figured out my opinion yet. But all I know is that I've got my little machine up at my attorney's office, and my insurance business is now tripling, and I'm not doing anything different.
Yeah.
So I mean, I just don't know. I mean, I would like to figure it out, but I don't know. It's like when I was up there at the North Carolina Bigfoot conference, and somebody asked me about Mandela Effect question, and I said, you know what? I just don't know.
Hmm.
I'm not afraid to say I don't know. I am not. And I believe that a little bit of humility when you say I don't know, I think that speaks to your character. Because if you don't know, you don't know. And
Yeah.
I'm not gonna make up any, pardon my grammar, I'm not gonna make up any bullshit. I am
Yeah.
not. I mean, if I don't know, I don't know. But if I know, now I'll tell you about it.
Yeah. Okay.
If you want to know about Ingo Swann, the greatest remote viewer of all time, I'll tell you what I know and what I perceived and the messages that I've been sent by him that haven't been sent back from the grave from him to me. I mean, I'll tell you about that.
Hmm.
I mean, Ingo Swann was one of a kind, and I like him because he was a drunk and a womanizer, and he was the greatest psychic in history. And that's what I like about him is he was truly a human,
Yeah.
and you couldn't, if I had been so lucky, I could have met Ingo Swann
Hmm.
and Joe McMoneagle, who's arguably the second greatest psychic in the world, said, John, you'd have loved Ingo. I said, I know I would have. I'd love to have met him. But you know what's interesting? You have not asked me who the greatest psychic in the world is.
Who's the greatest psychic in the world, John?
Ed Edwards from Clayton, Georgia. I was sitting in front of my computer and I was talking with him. I like Ed a lot. Ed apparently thinks a lot of me. And he said, he was in Palm Beach, Florida. He said, John, stand up in front of your computer. I said, okay. And we continued to talk, and about a minute later, a force knocked me over onto my floor.
Okay.
And I scrambled around. I said, Ed, that was you, wasn't it? He said, I guess. Who else could it have been? I'll never forget who else could it have been. Yeah, Ed Edwards can knock you over. He's the real thing. I mean,
Wow.
you and I both know another real thing. Her name's
Yeah.
Rob, and she is the real thing.
Right.
And there are a lot of people that have incredible psychic abilities, but you know, like Ed and Robin don't misuse them.
Hmm.
That's what I like about them is they temper them and they do not cause a problem. And I'll just say that Jen Cruz is another one of the She Squatchers. I love Jen to death. She's my go-to. She and Robin are my go-tos for
Hmm.
different types of questions.
Hmm.
When I because I'm not quite as attuned as they are, but they're pretty darn good. So anyway, I don't know why I digressed to that, but anyway, yeah, I don't know the answer,
Oh,
and
okay.
if I don't have the answer or if I don't have an opinion, I won't give it because one
Yeah.
day, guess what? I will have an opinion. Is
Yeah.
that
Well,
okay?
yeah, that's quite all right. But I know for a fact I've done experiments, and I've told you about these. I have things documented on what I was doing here, and I was thinking, okay, could this be the placebo effect? Am I, you know, just I'm just fooling myself? So every once in a while, I like to just really, just kind of just to see what can I really do here. And again, and I've mentioned this several times before, and I'll mention it again here, just because as an example. Okay, I set a machine for it to snow at a certain time in a certain location where snow would be the last thing in the world that would ever happen in that area. Okay, I was off by 48 hours. Okay, I meant to do it on Christmas Day, but it happened on the 27th, 2 days later. But as far as I'm concerned,
I'm sorry. I'm going to interrupt you, and I'm going to ask you to tell the full story because
oh,
this story has no compare.
okay, all right,
Will you comply?
okay, sure, why not? Okay, anyway, I'm a bit of a practical joker. I really am. I'm done.
No, not
Yes,
you.
yes. Okay, I enjoy messing around with people. Harmless fun. I don't do anything to try to hurt anybody or whatever. But I enjoy just kind of messing with people's minds every once in a while. All right, uh, and again, I've told the story numerous times, so this will be like for the newbies. All right, I had a client back in, I guess it was around 2013, somewhere around there. She was one of my first clients, and she bought a machine, and she had a legal issue inside the United States, which apparently festered and grew into something major. And she went to the American Embassy over in Kuwait, and I guess she had to have some documents or whatever updated, and they confiscated her passport, and they told her that she was a fugitive from the law inside the United States, and that the only way that she could come back would be under the jurisdiction or under the wonderful watchful eye of federal marshals. Okay, and so she didn't really particularly care for the situation, so she thought she'd bite the bullet and stay there. So basically, she needed documents. We're talking about an American woman, and it's inside an Islamic country with no documents. So I'm really impressed by her street smarts as to how she was able to make it as many years as she did with what she had to work with, which is practically nothing. So anyway, um, she she bought one of the machines to help her with this criminal case, this legal issue, and I was doing everything I could to help her. Right, everything was going on and on and on. Nothing was happening for about 6 months. Nothing, and I said, "Oh shoot!" And she was getting a little discouraged here. And she's saying, "This stuff doesn't work for me, Brad. I don't know what the heck's going on. This is not working." I said, "Okay." And then, for whatever reason, I asked her. I said, how many times does it rain where you're at? And she said, I'm in the middle of the desert. It doesn't rain here. Might get a couple spring showers. Hey, I'm in a desert. And I said, okay, all right, great. So I set a machine for it to rain over there. All right, within 2 weeks, a storm front comes out of India that hits the Persian Gulf, goes directly north, and heads directly for Kuwait City, where she was located at. Drops 6 to I think it was 12 inches of rain in Kuwait City in less than 24 hours. Cars are washed up against the end of the streets. You got floods, rivers. Streets are turning to rivers. You have all the Kuwaitis out there going, "What the heck's going on here?" Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I get a call from her and said, "Brad, this is not very funny." And I said, "Well, I was just trying to prove to you this stuff works." Anyway, I have another friend who got deployed over to Kuwait. And I thought, what the heck? I'm going to see if I can mess with this person and also mess with the my client. And and so I went ahead and set a machine for it to snow over in Kuwait. All right. Well, this is the most unlikely thing to ever happen. There's no recorded, nothing. It never snows in Kuwait. All right. Well, apparently I set a machine for it to snow, and I think it was on January the 28th, 2016. January the 28th, 2016. I think is when it snowed for the first time in recorded history. All right. That happens. Okay, it snows. All right. So everybody's thinking, oh, this is interesting. Well, yeah, I just want to see what I can do. All right, finally, I was on the show and I wanted to see, I want to see maybe might be a little rusty here, but I just want to know if I can possibly do this again and prove to myself this was beyond coincidence. This was actual cause and effect. All right, I said on the air. Matter of fact, you'll see it in the chat I think it's called Mulder's Radionics, where I talk about weather. You'll see it on the chat where I'm going back and forth with that very same client over in Kuwait, and her said, "Well, hey, can you make it cooler there?" And I said, "I'll tell you what, I'm going to do something different. I'm going to try to make it snow on Christmas." And it's right there in the chat, black and white. You can see it, and this is around November. All right. So I went ahead and did my thing with the machines, and I'm keeping my fingers crossed here. And again, December the 25th, nothing happens. I'm thinking, oh, heck, oh, well, I guess I got to eat a little crow here. So 26th, nothing happens. 27th, I look on Telegraph and I see in headlines here out of Kuwait, for the first time in recorded history, it snows in Kuwait. Well, that's not true. It was 2016, but still, it was a rare thing, and it made the headlines, and this all happened. So what happened is I tuned the machine for it to snow on a certain day. There it is. It snows within 48 hours of the time that I tried to make this thing happen. And so, yeah, others can say, well, hell, you didn't make it on Christmas, so you had nothing to do with that. Well, okay, all right, give me a little credit here. I mean, it's like close, it's within a couple of days, all right. And this is like basically an act of God type scenario, and you're going to tell me. Okay, there's nothing. I had nothing to do with this. It's just that for whatever reason, I got close, but not close enough. All right, but anyway, personally, I will live with it because I think Christmas back in the old days, Christmas is like into the middle of January, so it was still the Christmas season as far as I'm concerned, technically. But anyway,
12
there you
days.
go.
Now stop. It was within the 12 days of Christmas now,
Yes,
Brad.
of course. And so, as far as I'm concerned, I did it so they can. They don't like it, they can go to hell. I did it. So,
And we tell these anecdotal stories, and they're anecdotal, but you and I both know this stuff works. And it doesn't seem to work with bad intent. It seems to work with good intent, and that's what I like about it. A very dear friend said, John, I got one of these machines. Is this like a cult? I said, no.
hell no.
It's like a it's like a radio transmitter. It's like that's what I think. But
Yeah,
whatever it is, I mean, it's fun.
yeah, yeah.
Radionics is fun, and it does have certain results that are hard to describe. So anyway,
Exactly.
and I think everybody I think Dr. Mulder, I think that's where we need to leave it. It has
Okay.
certain interesting results. And if you want to have more information, contact Dr. Mulder through this channel.
Yes. Well, thank you. Thank you for being the MC of this show. I appreciate that.
Yeah, and I mean, I think, what, to be honest with you, I think we've talked about it enough that everybody can enjoy it. They can contact me through Scarycast. Go to scarycastpodcast.com or just go right here on this channel and contact Dr. Mulder.
Yeah.
And
Oh, by the way, I'm a co-host on that show now. He promoted me from a guest to a co-host, so I'm on there. What, about once every week, every other week, something like that. Whenever
well,
things
you're
work
going to be
out.
on there now that we're back after the 4th of July. You're going to be on there twice a week
Oh
because
shit.
we love Scarycast.
Yes.
Scarycast is fun.
Oh yeah.
And we have lots of cool guests. We've got a gal. We're going to have to do a special one because I had to wait until Robin McCrae comes back. She deals with plasma people and all kinds of crazy stuff.
Oh, fantastic.
And Robin will help us make sense out of it because Robin seems to help us make sense out of a lot of stuff. She's
There.
a wizard and she's a wonderful lady.
Yeah.
And we're just glad to know her. Like like Scarycast is glad to know you because I will officially announce. I don't know if anybody knew, Dr. Brad Mulder is a Scarycaster now.
Oh God. Yeah.
And he was on last Thursday night. That we had a legendary talk with Mark Sargent of the Flat Earth Society.
Yeah. And
It was legendary. It was good.
oh yeah, yeah. I still can't get the idea how the heck the atmosphere of the Earth can stay adhered to the surface of the Earth when it's counteracting what supposedly is a perfect vacuum on the other side of the edge of this
Because
atmosphere.
maybe the atmosphere should just dissipate and go off
Yeah, I was
into the
thinking that.
ether.
I was just, hey, what do I know? What do I know? I'm just one of those science guys. What the heck do I know,
You're
man?
just some dude. I know.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's like, and you see, that's what I like about the flat Earth, is because there are problems with both interpretations, flat Earth and round Earth.
Right.
So that's why our upcoming book. Can I go ahead and tell everybody?
It
You all
might
right
as
with that?
well. Might as well. Yes, I'm involved in the book. Go
It's
ahead.
going to be called Flat or Round question mark, and it's a book with Mark Sargent, Dr. Brad Mulder, Dr. John Stamey, and Kobe Ratliff. We are putting it together, and it's going to be a lot of fun. I mean, don't get too worried, don't get too upset. You know, your world is not going to change, but it's going to be a cool book. And
Yeah.
I'm very proud that I kind of like spearheaded this book. I think it's going to be fun. Don't you,
Yeah.
Brad?
Yes, and I even came up with what I thought was a very valid experiment for the double slit experiment involved in whether it's a flat or round Earth or a
All
ball.
right, now, all right, now I'm going to point my finger at you and say you've got about 45 days to get me that article to me so that I can start editing it because we got to have it.
Oh shit.
This thing is going to be out at Flattober, which is the third weekend in October in what's it called in Las Vegas.
Yeah, Las
So
Vegas. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, so it's going to be fun, and just wanted to let everybody know that flat or round question mark. I think it's a great idea. I think it doesn't have anything to do with anything, but it's a lot of fun. Will
Yes.
you agree with that?
I would agree with you on this. Like I said, it's one of those things where they both have valid points, but I've seen a lot of deception on one side of the scenario that makes me question its validity and makes me kind of even open my mind to other options. And I'm being diplomatic.
Okay, well that's great. Well, look, thanks a lot. And I'm
Okay.
sorry, I just
Oh no,
flipped the
no, I think it's
tables.
a great idea. I think we're kind of letting people know, hey, there's some stuff going on behind the scenes, and yeah, it's been a one heck of a show, by the way. Um, I like this. I think what you've done here, you've laid down the important thing to people is the mindset, is that thing, the intent, and really that's what it's all about. And I think that you've done it rather wonderful job there, sir. And you're using your own life as an example of how this stuff works. And I think you brought a lot of interesting information to the table, and I thank you very much.
Well, you are welcome. It was a real honor to be on your podcast, Brad. It really is, and I hope you'll have me back to
Of
talk about
course.
some of these crazy topics that I
Oh,
like to
yes.
talk about. But you know what?
Yes.
They are fun.
Yes, they are. Yes, they are. All right, my friend. Well, anyway, on that note, I guess we're going to call it a night. And thank you once
Night.
again. Nighty night. Bye.
All right, take care. Thank you.
Bye.